All right, here we got the schedule in front of me. Took me about 5 links to finally find a chart that we can follow. So keep in mind, Miami.
Well, let me stop you there. If you would have just went to stateoftheu.com and the piece that I whipped together in the 20 minutes before I got on here, it was right there.
Okay, that's for everyone else too. I didn't necessarily have the time for that, but
good.
I just did a search ACC schedule. So, but there you go. They're even on top of conference-related items like that. So I'm looking at the chart here, and keep in mind, everyone, that the original schedule was, of course, all division games plus Wake Forest and Florida State. Wake Forest and Florida State were the cross-division games, and then, of course, the ACC Coastal. Now we're looking at a schedule that includes, let me organize this in my head, out-of-division games against Florida State, Clemson, Louisville, NC State, and Wake. 4 division games for out-of-division games.
Yeah.
I wonder why
5 and 5
priority or why that came to be.
I think that the ACC took a look at the teams and were able to feed into some storylines that, we have been cultivating and speaking about, we bloggers and media, over the course of time. So, you change things up. So dropped from the schedule are the Duke Blue Devils. That is a Coastal Division game that we would play annually. They're not on the schedule for Miami this year. And so I wrote it up. The home games are Florida State, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and Virginia. So all of those teams were originally on the schedule. All of them were supposed to come to South Florida this year, with the exception of Virginia that came down last year. And if you remember, and you've seen it on social media, somebody who's speaking right now was the Dunkin' Donuts High Energy Fan of the Week at the Virginia game last year. So so they're back again this upcoming season. So that would be your 5 home games. And again, Florida State being your traditional crossover, your annual crossover to the Atlantic Division, and those other 4 being Coastal Division teams, boom. But when you go to the away games, that's when things flip up. Okay, we were going to go to Wake Forest as the secondary ACC or Atlantic crossover. That stays. You're going to go to Virginia Tech because they came down here last year, and then we're going to go up there. That stays. Like I said, the Duke game is gone. You're replacing them with NC State, Louisville, and the beast that is known as the Clemson Tigers. And like I wrote this like right at the top of the piece or the away game and analysis. Look, we've been talking about measuring this program against Clemson in the ACC championship game, because that was the only place that we were going to meet this year. And obviously they are one of the gold standard programs in football right now, in college football. It's, currently the champions are LSU, Alabama, Georgia. You can throw an Ohio State in there, and Clemson, those, and, Oklahoma. But outside of those handful of teams, everybody else is on a secondary tier. So you want to beat the best. To be the best, you have to beat the best. Now, that's going to happen. That opportunity is going to come during the season. I like it. I'm of the opinion that you respect all opponents and fear none. It's going to be tough to go into their barn to beat them. Obviously, the last 2 times, I know that we've lost, and it's been ugly. 58-0 in Al Golden's swan song in 2015, 35-3 in the ACC championship game in 2017. So 93-3 aggregate over the last 2 times that we played them. I know it's tough. I know that they're a monster program, but you cannot be scared of them. And look, if you have a De'Aaron King and you have a Rhett Lashley and you have all this talent on offense, and that question was about offense. I didn't even talk about this defense. This defense has been one of the best in America for a long, long time. Okay. You have elite talent at defensive end. You have talent, even though it might be unproven, at defensive tackle. You got talent and athleticism at linebacker. You have elite safeties, cornerbacks. They got some big, tough, nasty wide receivers, and our cornerbacks got to step up there. You got a kicker in Jose Borregales, comes over from FIU. Hopefully settles that. Lou Headley is a very good punter. You got a plethora of guys who can return kicks and punts and things like that and affect the special teams game. But this is the time. This has to be it, and you had to step into the opportunity. You cannot shy away from it. They put their pants on just like we do. They put their socks on. They put their shoes on. They tie them the same. Look, I know that that's a tough team, but that's the game. I don't even know what week it is because, again, the detailed calendar of the schedule has not been released yet. That's the one that I'm circling. Sure, yes, of course. Florida State, that game is different. Yeah, I mean, they are always a featured game as well. But anytime that you have the opportunity to go up against a Clemson, and I look at it as an opportunity, you have to step into that. You cannot shy away from it. It's like Inside Run or whatever that game was. I'm not going to say the name because we're a little older and maybe more sensitized, but some people called it I don't know. It was the get the guy with the ball game. We called it STQ, if you know that acronym.
Yep. I got it now. I thought for sure as soon as you said game, I thought I'm not going to get this because I'm not a gamer guy, but you went back old school. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I went back to recess with it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yep. Get the guy with the ball, STQ. I'm not, like I said, whatever. But you could not play that game and not only love contact, but seek it out. You know what I mean? That couldn't be you couldn't be the backup running back from Friday Night Lights, Chris Comer, where there's a guy on the edge and you step out of bounds. It's like, oh, I'm a speed guy. I'm going out of bounds. Like, no, you got to turn that back in. You got to be Greg Jones against Dexter Reed. I don't know that I brought up a Florida State guy, but remember that run when he put the forearm in that dude and flung him 5 yards and his helmet went off? You got to be that guy. You got to be Cam Harris when he was running over guys this last year, and it's like, okay, I could go this way and maybe get 3 yards, or I could go through your chest and get those 3. You have to have that mentality. And so for the Miami Hurricanes this year, you cannot shy away from it. You cannot just say, oh, well, I'll do it or da-da. No. You have to go full bore into everything, and especially into this Clemson game. And look, man, you have De'Aaron King. He's a singular talented quarterback, the likes of which Miami has not seen in a long time. And his skill set is different than pretty much any of those quarterbacks that made Miami quarterback you and won Heismans and everything like that. You have this guy for 1 year. You got to rock it till the wheels come off. And I know that we're going into Clemson, South Carolina. I know it's going to be tough. I know that they're a beast program. I know that they have whipped our ass repeatedly the last couple times we played. But the only way we beat them is that we line it up and we hit that field. And that's what we're going to do. So, we're going to line it up and hit that field. I'm not saying that we're going to 100% win, but we're going to give it 100%. We're going to give it our damnedest. And look, there's been other teams that have come close. There's been other teams. Look, the Pitt super weapon, lame, 6-7, 7-6, 8-5. Pitt beat them twice. Syracuse, nobody's incredible team. 8-win ceiling. They've beaten Clemson. Look, when you cut them, do they not bleed? Shout out to Shakespeare. Yes, they do. So for anybody who's there scared and fearful, I would say have an appropriate level of respect for the gravitas of the game and, the importance of that program and the stature of that program. But we're not scared. We're Miami Hurricanes. We're going to go in there and we're going to punch them in the mouth and see what happens.
Fresh 3542. I know that Logan's still your favorite, but thank you for the compliment on the shirt. So when I take a quick glance at the schedule without really analyzing it, and I promised everyone that I would break down all the Power 5 schedules, revised schedules once they were released, and I will hit the ACC as soon as I possibly can, but it's a whirlwind Wednesday for me. Conference calls all day, 2 consecutive live streams, work all night, and then hop on an airplane, so it may be Thursday or Friday before I get to this. But my quick snap is that there are the breakdown to the ACC is basically Clemson and then your talented teams that we don't know about yet, i.e. Miami, North Carolina, Florida State. And then you've just got a glut of teams that I don't know if Pitt's better than Wake Forest, is better than Virginia, that's better than Virginia Tech. They're all pretty much in the same category. So this schedule is automatically more difficult for one reason, Clemson. Because otherwise it's the same schedule. Sure, you lose a Duke and you lose a couple other teams from the Coastal. Who else from the Coastal do you lose?
That's it.
Just Duke.
Yeah, because we play Virginia, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Pittsburgh,
But if you're playing
There's 17
Clemson, Louisville, NC State, and Wake you usually only play 2 coastals or 2 Atlantic.
But you usually have 4 non-conference games. You know what I mean?
Wait, how many conference games do we have?
10.
Oh, hey. Yeah, that is 5 and 5. Okay,
right.
I'm still getting into this here.
Yeah, so I mean, you lose Duke, and then you eat up some of the non-conference with these other Atlantic teams. So yeah, the only one that you lose, because there's us, so we can't play us. So obviously we're out. But you got Duke, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and Duke are the 6 other teams. So yeah, you play the five other ones that are not named Duke.
You play everyone but Duke, Boston College, and Syracuse out of the other 13 possibilities. Okay, got it. So the schedule is only more difficult because of
Notre Dame as the Notre Dame.
Okay, so the schedule is more difficult for one reason: you play Clemson. Everybody else is just who knows. We think North Carolina is good, and we're all basing that on 7-6 and Mac Brown. But they went 7-6 last year. I expect them to be really good, but it's not like it's a given.
Right.
Okay. And there is North Carolina on the schedule, so that's still going to be a marquee game. Do we know if there's going to be a division format still?
No, there's no division as announced today. It is everybody plays their 10, and then the top 2 teams make it to the ACC championship game. So think of us as the Big 12 East in that regard. And Notre Dame is playing a full 10-game ACC schedule, and they are eligible for the ACC championship game for this season.
They miss Miami.
Yep.
Most likely in my opinion, 3rd to 4th best team in the division or conference before we start play. They have to play North Carolina. They play Florida State. They play Clemson. And then again, everybody else is just kind of a mishmash. Okay. All right. So I'll be looking out for those teams that don't have to play Clemson. If there's any contenders out there that don't have to play Clemson, I see Virginia Tech has to play Clemson. Wake has to play Clemson. Does anybody miss Notre Dame and Clemson, or Notre Dame and Miami, or Notre Dame and, one? Yeah. Does anybody miss 2 out of the Big 4 or Big 3? If you're saying Clemson and then looking at Miami, North Carolina, Florida State.
No, Clemson is Clemson.
If anybody who could be a contender, Louisville.
I mean,
they don't play Clemson.
They don't?
Louisville does not play Clemson, but they do have Notre Dame, Miami, and Florida State. They don't play North Carolina, so that's a pretty light touch relatively for them.
Duke, they play Florida State and Notre Dame, and they're Duke. So Florida State plays, obviously, Clemson, Louisville, and Notre Dame, and North Carolina. RIP. Georgia Tech plays us, Clemson, Notre Dame, Louisville, and Florida State. RIP. Louisville, we already talked about. Us, we already talked about. North Carolina plays Florida State, Notre Dame, but misses Clemson. So there's that. NC State plays Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, and they miss both.
But unless they really turn it around,
right.
They were 1-7 last year.
But I mean, hey, that's a team that plays or that misses both. Pittsburgh, Louisville, Notre Dame, Florida State. So Pittsburgh plays all 5. RIP. Syracuse plays Clemson and Notre Dame and Louisville and North Carolina, but miss us. Virginia plays Louisville, North Carolina, us, Florida State, and Clemson, so they play all 5. Virginia Tech, Clemson, Miami, Louisville, North Carolina, but miss Notre Dame. And Wake Forest, I believe, plays all 5. No, they play 4 of the 5. They miss Florida State.